Hello, I've got a cold, so my voice isn't good and I don't look great at the moment. I've actually written Henry VIII versus Robots Part 1. It's a good job I've split it into two parts, to be honest, because the first part is really long. And that's why it took me ages to write. Not because I'm lazy or anything like that, it's just very long. Anyway, people keep saying I can't be bothered to write stories anymore. That's not true, no matter what Boo says. I've simply been too busy with my action-packed celebrity lifestyle to waste my time on piddly humans. So I didn't write anything. Ha, serves you right. Now, however, I'm writing Henry VIII versus Robots, a story far better than anything you lot have ever read, except for my other books. Everything I write is legendary and perfect. Some might accuse me of nicking the plot from Boo, but that's a lie. He can't come out of anything original, and the idea is brilliant, so therefore it's mine. This is part one, the bit with no robots. Too late now, I've clickbaited you. Also, this is a completely accurate biography of Henry VIII's life. I know because I was there. Henry, get downstairs now, shouted his mum, Elizabeth of York. But Mum, I'm on the phone with Peter. Henry, it's really important. Your brother Arthur's dead. Really, you're pulling my leg, shouted Henry, who wasn't fat and looked like someone named Henry, which is because he was named Henry, which in turn was because he looked like a Henry, etc. No, I'm not. It's that sweating sickness that's going around. It's not my problem if you can't self-isolate. Young man, get down here right now. Oh, my voice is horrible today. Henry went downstairs, still on the phone. It was an iPhone 12, in case you're wondering. He'd stolen it off a Desert Michael at some point in the past. He'd been out hunting and stuff with Peter, the two frequently playing a game where the objective was to kill as many peasants as possible. Henry was doing his level best to look as stroppy as possible as he slowed down the stairs. You're going to treat your brother's death with all the seriousness it deserves, shouted Elizabeth. He's left poor old Catherine of Aragon a widow. Does that mean I get to marry her? Asked Henry, more eagerly than a pie about to be eaten. The Pope says no marrying your brother's widow. Oh, that's not fair, screamed Henry. Yeah, I know, nanny state these days, muttered Elizabeth, as she was punched into oblivion by a familiar bird. Oi, Blackbird, what was that for? Mum's meant to die in a year's time. History books said so, yelled Henry. This is my history now, said Blackbird with his deep voice, deeper than the Grand Canyon. I worked out how to time travel. There's loads of people I can kill in the past. Your brother was one of them. I told everyone else the sweat sickness. Cool, you gonna kill me then? Nah, I'm bored of Tudors. I brought robots through the time stream by accident. I've literally rewritten reality for you. I'm off to kill some Saxons now. Blackbird flew off, flipping a car over as he did so, and punching a tree that had a snail called Sean in it. Wait, he's actually dead. Mum wasn't joking, Henry said, starting to cry. Yes! This is the best day of my life. I get to be king. In 7 years' time, reminded Peter. Right, first thing I'll do as king is have you beheaded. 7 years later. Woohoo! I'm the king, shouted Henry as the body of his father, Henry VII, was carted off. And now to behead Peter. I thought you were joking, Henry. I wasn't joking, I was being very serious, and it's King Henry to you. Guards, off of his head. Henry watched as his lifelong friend was taken to be executed, rubbing his hands together in glee. Now that I'm the king, let's do this thing, he shouted, a guard face-palmed, soon becoming the second person to be executed by Henry. Son, you may need a royal adviser if you're going to be a fit king, said Henry VII from beyond the grave, and don't go spending all my money straight away. Shut up, tightwad, you're meant to be dead, yelled Henry VII, running up and kicking the coffin, or rather a snail on the coffin. The snail, who was named Percival, yelped as he was struck by the blow. I'm a great king, I'll never need an adviser. A few days later. You're being interviewed to see if you're going to be my royal adviser, said Henry, standing up and attempting to kill a fly with a chainsaw. Starting now. What's your name? The interviewee was called Thomas Flip-Flop. Barry. Off with your head, said Henry, miming a cutting motion. But sire, is this really so hard? All you have to do to get the job is be named Thomas. Off with your head. Next. In walked the next interviewee, Assassinate the King. He had black hair that was blonde, and he wore glasses, but at the same time didn't wear glasses. The Ferrari driven to the interview was red, but at the same time red. It was redder than an object that wasn't particularly red, like the copy of Diary of a Wimpy Kid owned by his dad. His hair swept majestically. "Can you cut the descriptions? I am the king," said Henry, tutting and stamping his foot as a unicorn called Horatio burst through the window. "My apologies, sire," said Assassinate. "Name? Thomas." "No, it isn't, you peasant son of an ice cream maker. It's Assassinate the king. You're plotting to have me killed. Killed, I say." "But, sire, Assassinate is a very popular name in Hampshire. It means long live the king." "Burned at the stake. Toodaloo. Next." The final interviewee was named Thomas More, mostly because however much money he made, he always wanted more. He also had a massive collection of tambourines that he typically played, enough that he'd been thrown out of his house just before he took his mock exams for his GCSEs. "Name?" "Thomas, sire." "You're hired. Would you like to hear my tambourines?" "Don't push it, moron." 15:20. "Oi, oi, oi, Francois, my man, how's it going?" Henry said through his phone's FaceTime. He was using a Henry VIII themed filter that he'd spent ages trying to find. "Ahoy, matey, I be having a grand time, me old air freshener. With that landlubber Wolsey's messed up, he'd be walking the plank," shouted King Francois I of France, who had a robotic leg with jet engines that let him fly, since peg legs hadn't been invented yet. He had a parrot named Toucan on his shoulder, who worked as a teacher of maths at a local secondary school. "That's great, mate. See you at the Field of the Cloth of Gold soon. I'd be there by now, but I was punching a peasant and extorting their money. I wouldn't need to, but I spent all of Dad's money on rubber ducks straight away, and besides, hurting peasants is funny. That be our divine right as captains of our countries, me old dictionary. Yo ho ho, I'll meet you in the ring, me hearty." 40 minutes later, after Henry is less than pleasant to a peasant with a pheasant named Dave. "Welcome to the Field of the Cloth of Gold," boomed to the announcer, a nun named Gary with a hairstyle that had a strong resemblance to a hairstyle. "Get ready for a Royal Rumble." "Shiver me timbers, my wife will kill me if she finds out I was fighting a scurvy sea dog like you, me old toothbrush," said Francois, whose gold tooth was shining brighter than a horror film. It wasn't really gold, it was just a calculator that he'd painted gold, but the last person to point that out had been executed, then put under arrest. "These participants today have quite the history together as kings of neighbouring countries," screamed Gary, who was now spitting so much that she'd accidentally created a new river. "For example, I remember when Henry killed Francois over how many sugars should go in his tea." "That was an accident, and it's one sugar," Henry muttered crossly. "Oh, I was stone dead, I was," grumbled Francois. "Also, they had a one night—" "That's enough, Gary," shouted Henry over the top. "We agreed never to mention the horse again." Gary changed the subject. "As the nun with a gun, I declare that in the red corner, with the Mega Monarch, the English Emperor, the British Baron, Henry the Ninth. Eighth, actually. Also, it's King Henry to you. And in the blue corner, with the cool captain, the powerful pirate, the lovely leader, King Francois I. "Why is he being called king?" shouted Henry, stamping his foot and murdering a snail named Chubbs. And fight. The match started off tame with a few basic wrestling moves going on. Francois attempted to judo flip Henry over, but Henry bit his left nipple and ended that plan. Henry charged forward and attempted to charge into Francois, which worked as the King of France was clutching his bleeding nipple in pain. Henry then jumped and grabbed Francois, the two of them forming a ball and rolling for a while before smashing through a window that appeared to be there just in case anyone wanted to smash through it, since the fight was outside on an open field. "I'll do that again, you can smash me through the window this time," said Henry. "Avast ye, son of a biscuit eater, you hurt my nipple, scallywag," screamed Francois. None of that made any sense. "This story doesn't make any sense, scurvy dog." The two got up and the fight was called off for half an hour while a new window was brought in. Most people were too busy buying hot dogs to notice. Soon the fight resumed and Henry got kicked through the window. Francois kicked him in the groin, lifting him up, then kicked him in the chest to propel him forward. Henry ripped off his t-shirt at that moment, his hair glowing gold. Francois followed suit and the two flew up to space, everyone watching apart from a guy named Keith who was buying a cheeseburger. The two flew at light speed, getting in the occasional punch. Francois stopped to clutch his nipple in agony. So Henry threw Mars at him, using the Earth's gravitational pull to ensure it hit him from behind. It hurt the King of France less than the nipple bite had, however, and he teleported behind Henry and began pile driving him into the sun, tearing a massive hole through it before landing on planet Haddock, causing an explosion that wiped out all other life on that planet, including a snail named Robert. Henry grabbed Jupiter and started using it as a shield to defend against Francois's eye lasers. Then Francois grabbed Saturn. The two planets were thrown at each other, but Jupiter smashed Saturn to smithereens and got Francois right in the nose. Henry was punched from behind, so he looked round and saw Blackbird had joined in the fun. After quickly biting Blackbird's beak, Henry got punched into Francois, giving them both slightly dodgy legs. Soon all three fighters began travelling through time, but Blackbird decided he was bored and decided to go to Victorian times. Henry and Francois made their way to ancient Egypt and took out all the pyramids in one go, their eye lasers, sending fragments into space. It unleashed a flurry of blows on both fighters. Finally, they travelled to 1580, and since Francois started holding his bleeding nipple, Henry was able to smash him back down to earth, biting his nipple once more as a show of victory. "Good fight, eh, mate?" Henry said, looking up at the author expectantly. "If we carried on, I'd have cleaved you to the brisket." "Oh, shut up, I'm better than you."